So, well, we're here today. We're gathered here today, us handyish siblings, to talk about flooring, right?
Yeah.
And my favorite part about this video is I didn't do any of it. She was all on her own. I don't know what I was doing, but I wasn't doing flooring. So we're going to be looking at pine. Explain your pine flooring.
Well, at first I was just going to do like pergo or some kind of snap laminate.
Modern.
Yeah, modern. And then I was like, you know what? If there's a gouge, then you got to somehow replace just that one piece. Because we've dealt with that with his place.
I hate it.
And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. So I'm like, well, I want to do hardwood. And at the time, pricing out hardwoods for the amount that I need for my place, I was looking at like $4,500 to $5,000. And,
most people
kind of a budget.
Most people would be like, "Oh, that's cheap."
Yeah, no, not me.
not us. Yeah.
So, it would have been, I think it was around like $4-5 a square foot. And so I started looking at alternatives and reached out to YouTube, and a lot of people have been doing the plywood thing. But I wanted it to have a little bit of class because I'm rebuilding this whole house.
Character.
Yeah. And
because your house is like non-stop character everywhere.
Yeah, I pretty much rebuilding it. It's a custom home. That's even what a couple of the building
and I was involved
said.
with the process, but once I bought this place, it was like, sorry sis, you're on your own. You're welcome.
Yeah.
It forced her to learn a lot more, didn't it?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
And
So anyway, we're gonna go ahead and get the video rolling here, and we'll talk. We'll do a voiceover. We'll talk during the video too.
Yeah.
Because I'm good at a few things. One of them is definitely talking too much.
Yeah.
Here we go. Says this is so janky. We did the whole video, and now I'm doing this piece to insert in the middle of because she's like, "You cut me off. I was in the middle of the story. You cut me off. So I'm sorry, sister."
Yeah.
Go ahead and finish your story about your plywood alternative.
Yeah. So then I started just researching boards. And obviously the cheapest was pine, softwood. And so then I actually ran across LL Flooring, or Lumber Liquidators at the time. And they had pine flooring, nickel gap flooring that one side you could use as for walls. And the other side was usable for flooring. And they were in the wide plank, which is old. Yeah, the narrow flooring with like oak and maple is old, but like my parents had a 1800s home and it was wide plank. Pretty sure it was a softwood. So I really like the look, like most people do, of the wide plank.
And I was of course skeptical because I'm thinking pine is soft. You're gonna get so many marks in that floor, and then you ended up hardening it with the tung oil.
Yeah. So the regular boards that you can buy at the lumber store was about the same price as Lumber Liquidators tongue and groove that you could buy that was purpose built for floors. And so the instructions on the box, because I'm not exactly like him, I'll actually read the instructions.
She will. I'm handy-ish. She's wearing she's wearing the handyish hat. She's not handy-ish. She's handy.
So, well, thank you very much. But anyway, so they recommend either face nailing or gluing. And after having to take apart a house that had glue,
it's horrible.
No.
I was there
why
for the
would
demo.
I do that to the next people down the road? So
glue, and there were nails like every inch.
Oh man, they just layered and layered. It was like 3 inches of floor.
Remember prying that up? We ended up just cutting the floor out.
We cut it through, and oh man, it was horrible. Anyway, yeah, HGTV doesn't show.
Yeah, they never show that stuff.
No, they don't.
They'll give like 2 minutes tops to the demo out of a 1 hour show.
Yeah. So anyway, so at the time, this Lumber Liquidators was selling the pine floors for, I think it was $1.40 a square foot, something like that, $1.32. And at the top, I did have to buy more because I didn't buy enough, because I ended up loving it and I put it in more places. So
it's your basically everything except the kitchen and bathrooms,
yep,
correct?
Yep. All the floor is this wide plank pine now, except for the tile.
Yep.
And and the tile.
And the tile is cool. It's like a Spanish-looking tile.
The tile was on clearance at Lowe's because they weren't making it anymore. It was actually made in Italy, and they're like, no, we're not doing that color anymore.
So didn't you have to go?
I did. I drove to Cincinnati
to different
couple
stores
hours away to
find it.
Just so I'd have enough.
You were making calls like to the different stores, like, do you still have some?
Yep.
No, don't check your computer. Go eyes on
it, because I'm coming a ways away.
Yeah, and then set it aside. Put my name on it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways.
And you bought extra because if
did.
you had breakage,
Yep.
you'd be able to have some to replace.
Yeah.
Always remember to buy extra and set it
Yeah.
aside someplace safe.
Yep.
In case
like
you have
your
breakage.
front porch. That's where it's at right now. Anyway, so I ended up going with Lumber Liquidators, the legitimate flooring, and I thought it would be a great deal, and it probably did end up still being cheaper because you got not only flooring, but then you've got the underlayment, and then you've got your face nails, and the thing they don't tell you is the time. It is so, I picked, unbeknownst to me, if I knew what I know now, I wouldn't have done it, but it turned out amazing. But it's the most labor-intensive floor, probably. Like, I'm not a professional, but oh my gosh, from the laying to the cutting. But it looks
cool. The character is so...
the measuring. I mean, the boards aren't exact, so you have to measure all the widths of the boards so that you have the same width on the same run, because if you don't, then there's going to be huge gaps. And so I learned along the way, and a lot of this wasn't even on YouTube, and unfortunately this video is not even detailed enough to really get you there, but you'll figure it out. But
get the idea.
Yeah. So make sure your width is the same the whole run.
I just can't get over the, modern flooring is all about hiding fasteners, and the result of being able to see those square head nails is just so character rich.
Yep.
And then for the added touch, this idiot had her nieces come over and help hammer down the nails. And remember, this is before the hardener had been applied to the pine.
And it's not going to hurt. I mean, it takes like decades for it to really work. But
yeah, you have hammerhead marks in the floor. And it looks fine. It looks cool.
Yeah, and I had a heavy, shelf unit that I had to roll across the floor. So those marks, I would have had to sand it down.
So do you think the people are like, please let us just watch it? Or maybe they've just skipped over this part and have gone to the time-lapse videos.
If it's worth it, they'll watch it. If they're not, whatever.
That's true.
I do the
same thing.
If
you're really interested. Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you again, sister. I'm sorry for cutting you off earlier.
Well, all is well.
All is well.
Yeah.
Enjoy the rest of the video. She's going to put some description stuff in the description.
Yeah, like where I bought stuff
She's going to look some stuff up and drop that in there. So if you have any questions, you can throw it in the comments, and I will ask her for the answer and post that for you. See ya. So, sis, go ahead and narrate for us.
All right, so I have a couple different techniques that I use to fill in the cracks. What you're seeing here is the wood putty, and there is a powder product that people actually use with
don't look at me, I don't know.
I can't remember what it's called. It's people use it for waterfall tables and such. I don't have it in front of me. This is kind of an impromptu video.
Kind of like an epoxy?
Yeah, there you go, an epoxy. So people add the pigment to the epoxy, and I figured, well, why can't I just add it to wood putty? Because I knew I wouldn't be able to match exactly with the wood, and that was going to drive me crazy. So I was like, you know what? Black is cool. Black goes with everything.
It goes with the nails.
And it goes with, yes, with the nails. So I had purchased old-fashioned square nails.
Didn't you say the factory was the same one that used to make it, like in the
it's
1800s?
It's the oldest operating nail factory in the country.
What do you remember the name of the factory or where you got them?
This is an impromptu video, so of course I didn't look at it before I left my place and recall what it's called. But I actually bought it originally from the antique hardware store online.
Well, there you go.
And then I think eventually when I had to buy more, I went to the actual company, and they're the only ones doing it, so it took a while to get it sometimes. So
all right, so what are you doing here? Are you just roughing it up to accept the tung oil?
So first I sanded the floors, and this is not quite in order, but first I sanded the floors, and pine is a softwood, as most of us know, and so I didn't want to have to use a very aggressive grit on the sander. So the big floor drum sanders that you can rent from Home Depot, Lowe's, that sort of thing, they actually only go down to, I think it is 100 grit, or is it 80 or 100, which is way too aggressive for a soft pine. So my only really other option that I'm aware of, correct me if I'm wrong, is the handheld belt sander. So a lot of back breaking work, but so that's what I ended up using, and I tried to go in a diagonal, kind of with the grain, but in a diagonal so I wouldn't leave lines, and that worked pretty darn well.
Yeah, I was wondering why you were at an angle like that. I always thought you were supposed to go with the grain.
Yeah, so I did try going with the grain, and it left, kind of scratch marks, and honestly you have to really
look close.
Yeah, and
so check this out. This is her chimney. There were two in the house. We took one all the way down, and we left this one. And then this was your first tile job, actually, around that chimney.
Yeah, it really stinks. I needed to use the wood stove, so I had to do something, and you have to have so much
R value.
R value between your combustibles. And so I might end up redoing it here in the future because
I think it looks good.
Well,
it's a story piece.
It is a story piece, but it's also
the imperfection
a little bit
is
of a
like
trip hazard.
Yeah, but it's the story is, hey, this was my first tile job, and then it's like, oh, it's your first tile job. That's actually not bad.
Yeah. So in that previous little clip that we just saw, you have to use basically I think it's a tamp, and kind of bring those nails all the way down just below the floor. Otherwise, it'll just eat up your sandpaper.
Now, you were telling me about the mix that you use here. What is the mix?
So I went with a company that has pure tung oil, and they have dark tung oil and then the regular tung oil. And so I half and halved it. And so half tung oil, well, I guess if you did it that way, it's basically half tung oil, half regular, and then that you have a half and half with mineral spirits, so that the wood will take it and dry faster. Because if you don't dilute that with mineral spirits, it'll just be sticky. It'll be very, very, very sticky. And so you put it down, and then you wait for it to dry. And then you put more down, and pretty much over like probably a couple hour period, 4 hours, you just keep applying and applying and applying until the wood just won't take it anymore. You wait a little bit, and then you give it more.
So how many coats? Is this a single coat job or 3 coat?
I think I ended up doing a total of like 3 eventually of the tung oil.
Okay.
And then what you're not going to see is the polyurethane, because I honestly forgot to record
well, that's
that.
okay. So poly over it.
Yeah.
Thanks,
and
sis,
I brushed it
for doing the voiceover.